Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm doing another sit down personal finance talk. I got out my little mood light on. It's gonna keep getting darker and darker, so don't mind the lighting changing. But today I thought I would do a video on the cost of living in London. As an expat and as someone who just lives here, I thought it'd be interesting to go through some of the baseline expenses that you would have here in London and how much things cost, ranging from the budget version to the more expensive things that you can experience. And then at the end, I will do a little calculation of how much you need to earn minimally to live in London and kind of some things you might want to watch out for as someone who's new to the UK or new to London. One of the reasons I wanted to do this is because I see a reoccurring theme in my comments that people debate how much money you need to move to London and how much you need to make a year. People are saying you can't live here under 100k, people who say you can for like 20k. So I thought I would just share my perspective on what I think you would need to live comfortably in London. All right, let's get into it. I'm gonna start off with fixed expenses. So the number one fixed expense in London is usually going to be your rent. It's going to be the biggest chunk, potentially, probably, especially if you're on a budget. So if you want to live on your own, which is what I'm just going to assume in this situation, and that's kind of my idea of a comfortable living. I just took a quick look on Rightmove this morning, and honestly the market has picked up a lot more than when I did my flat hunting video. It's now, I think it's up there now as before the pandemic. Like, everything's super expensive and I think it's still rising right now, but you can still find studios for around £900 in zone 1 and zone 2. Of course, they're not super nice. They're gonna be tiny. They're gonna be like a bed and a kitchen all in one space, but if you wanted to live alone, it is possible. You're just kind of sacrificing some comfort and living in an older building. You can also find one bedrooms I see for as little as 1,300. Even though the market's higher, I would say the average for a one bedroom is pretty high, like at least 1,500, 1,600, but there are 1,300 one bedrooms out there. You just kind of have to look, and this would obviously be more in zone 2. They're gonna be smaller, they might be in an older building, living and kitchen might be combined, but it's possible for that price. I see a lot of people in my flat hunting videos saying that, oh, she just got lucky and found my flat currently for like 1,200 something. But if you're dead set on that budget and that's kind of like exactly how much you want to pay, there are definitely the units out there still. So I think that is basically the minimum you'd be paying in rent in London. So next thing to consider is deposit. You're gonna have to pay 5 weeks rent. So for that studio that's 900, it's gonna be 1,050 in deposit, or 1,500-ish for the one bedroom. And if you're an expat and you either don't have employment set yet, you don't have a credit history here, or you're a student or you're low salary, you're gonna need to pay 6 months upfront. And that is actually what I did when I first moved over here, because I had some issues of my work confirming that I was legally allowed to work in the UK, so I had to pay 6 months upfront to secure the lease. Before we continue, I'd like to give a big thanks to paysend for sponsoring this portion of the video. I thought this was a really relevant sponsor for this video because paysend is a platform that allows you to send money from one country to another directly to your own bank account, to a friend's bank account, to a business that you need to pay. And this was probably the place where I lost the most money when I was moving to the UK. So I signed my lease before I moved to the UK, and I had to pay a big chunk of the deposit up front. But at the time, I thought the only option was an international bank transfer. I ended up using my kind of like local bank to send kind of like a wire transfer, or like, I forget what it's called, like international bank transfer to the agency. And at the time, I did get a quote beforehand, and not only was there a fee for transferring the money, the exchange rate was not great. I felt like I lost $200, $300 just because the exchange rate wasn't the market exchange rate. The bank takes a fee, and they also do a lower exchange rate to account for, like, I don't know, changes or something, I don't know. And it also took up to 5 business days. So at the time, I signed my lease literally a few days before I was supposed to arrive in the UK. And and the bank transfer should have gone through literally the day before I landed. And if it didn't go through, I wouldn't have been able to get the keys when I landed in the UK. So luckily it worked out. But if you're looking for a faster, cheaper way, I would definitely check out paysend. They have really low fees and your payment will arrive in minutes. You can go on their website and just see what exactly the amount that you'd be getting before you start the payment. So it's all really transparent. If you guys are transferring money internationally or are interested in trying it out, I'll put the link in the description, and if you use the code MONICAFREE, you'll get your first 3 transactions free. Okay, now moving on to the other expenses. So the next big expense you're gonna have is definitely gonna be council tax. So council tax is calculated based on the value of the property that you're staying in, and in Canada it would be called property tax. It's basically paying for the services in your community. They have different bands based on the value of your property. The 2 previous properties I've been at have always been band C, and I paid 90 to 95 pounds a month. So if you live alone, you get a 25% discount on your council tax that you need to apply for when you rent your flat or when you're setting up the council tax bill. So the difference between the different bands are around £100 a year. So you could be paying anywhere between maybe 80 to like 150 pounds a month on your council tax based on the band you live in and the value of your property. Of course, I would assume that if you live in a higher value property, you're also paying more rent, which also means you can probably afford the higher council tax. And then the next thing would be utilities. So I feel like utilities vary so much depending on the place. Definitely ask your agent what the utilities are like at the place. So at my previous place, the new build, I felt like maybe because it was a new build, the building is built to be more energy efficient and like retain more heat. So you use less gas, you use less water, you use less electricity. So my bills there were really, really cheap. So for water, water is the same as what I pay now. For water, I paid around 23 pounds a month, and here I pay 25 pounds a month. It used to be higher here actually, but this is like a converted flat, I guess. So it used to be a house, they converted it into 3 flats, and the water system isn't set up to meter each unit separately. So you can apply to get a water meter, and if they're unable to install a water meter, you get a cheaper rate based on how many people are staying at the flat. So because I'm a single person staying at the flat, I got like the lowest fee possible for a place that isn't able to be metered, and that's around 25 pounds a month. For heat and gas, drastic differences from my old place to my new place. So my old place, I only paid 17 for gas, 11 for electricity, and now in my new place, I'm paying 45 for gas and 46 for electricity. I don't know about electricity, like if I'm using more electricity, I mean, I guess there's more rooms in here and it's probably less energy efficient, but for gas, for sure, I'm using more, especially when it's cold because the windows are single pane. And so I honestly like had to really crank up my heater when it's winter time because there'd just be kind of like a draft coming from the window. Not a draft, but you know, the windows are just not retaining the heat. So I definitely used more gas in this current place. Okay, it's getting a little too dark. Let me turn it up a bit. Is that weird? All right, I kind of like the lighting. I hope it doesn't bother you guys. But anyways, I'm gonna continue. Next is TV license. I personally don't have a TV license, but if you do want to watch cable TV, you're gonna have to pay a TV license, and that's 159 pounds per year. This like money I think goes to the BBC or something like that. I don't know. I don't watch TV, so I didn't get the license, but you know, they send you very threatening letters about if you have this TV, you could be fined if you don't pay for a license. So that is going to be like 159 pounds per year if you decide to get it. Internet, I noticed, also varies from place to place. So it kind of depends on what providers you're able to get. Not every place in London you're able to get the same providers. So for example, in my old flat, I was able to get a company called Hyperoptics, and that internet was only 10 pounds a month. But now looking at my current place, I use this website called moneysavingexpert.com, I think. Anyways, I'll put it on the screen. It's a good website to look for like budget-friendly things and deals and things like that. So I was looking for the cheapest option that is like at an okay speed because, you know, I work I upload videos, so I don't want like slow speed. But the cheapest I could get was a $21.99 per month plan with version, and I got a 75-pound credit for signing up. So there's definitely deals like that there. And so on average, it brought my bill down to like 17 pounds-ish a month. So yeah, not that much more expensive, but kind of double if you think about it. So it just sort of depends on where you are and what you can get. Next, phone plan. So I'm on a 10 pound a month phone plan with EE, and it's the kind of plan that you can get if you don't have credit. So for example, one of the downsides, although it's cheap and it's with a major company, it doesn't include roaming, which is so annoying, and apparently I cannot get it because I don't have credit, which is... Anyways, I could just get a SIM card from like 3 or like giffgaff or something, which is like one of the more budget companies, but I already had this plan. It's kind of a good plans for EE, so I decided to keep it. And then when I travel, I get one of the other SIM cards to use. So it does really vary depending on the company you go to. You could go with 3, get a cheap like 10 pound unlimited plan, or you can get one of the bigger companies which will have like better coverage usually, and it's slightly more expensive. It might be like, you know, 20 pounds a month or something like that. But yeah, still not as expensive as in Canada. I think in Canada you can get data plans that are like up to $100. It's insane. Another expense that I kind of consider fixed because you need to go place is transportation. There's a few options, of course. So with the tube, specifically I mean like the underground tube, the subway, so not including the bus or anything, just the tube and the overground. Pricing is a bit complicated because they charge you by the number of zones you cross. So if you don't cross any zones, it's cheaper. If you cross multiple zones, it's more expensive. If you cross one zone, it's a certain price. So it's really hard to describe the pricing of the tube, but I'll give you like a basic idea. So if you cross zone 1 and zone 2, it's £3.20 at peak hours, which is between 6:30 and 9:30 in the morning, and all other times is £2.60. But let's just say you're commuting within zone 1, it's only £2.50 at all times, so peak or non-peak. And then there's a daily cap, so there's a daily amount that you won't go over, even if you're traveling multiple places. You just need to be tapping the same card, is $7.70, and there's actually a weekly cap as well, which is $38.40. So you'll never go over that much if you're tapping the same card and they know that you've been spending that much on the tube this week. But the price for crossing like one zone isn't equal throughout. It's different depending on which zones you're crossing, like 1 to 2 versus like zone 4 to 5. It's like a different price. It's not like majorly different, but at the same time, the baseline price of the tube is pretty expensive already, but it's nice to know that there's daily caps and weekly caps. And compared to Canada, the bus is charged differently, so it's always going to be on top of the tube price. It's never based on the distance that you're traveling, like on the tube and then on the bus. So the bus is always £1.30 per ride, but I think it does also go towards your total, but I might be wrong. I need to look that up. But if you have a rail card, which I think a lot of people don't know about, but if you're between 16 to 30, you can get a rail card, and it's part of train line or the train system. It gives you 30% off your Oyster card. So any ride be off peak. So that's only the morning rides, basically. The morning weekday rides, you don't get 30% discount, but all other rides you get 30% discount. And it is £30 a year, but I calculated if you take the tube 28 times off peak, it pays for itself. So it not only gives you 30% off the tube, it also gives you 30% off the train. So sometimes if you take a long train ride to like Manchester or Brighton, that's gonna be like a few pounds off already. So I think it's very worth it if you do want to get it. You just need to buy it online, and then you need to go to a tube station and ask the staff to link it to your tube card. That's the only way that you can use it with your Oyster card. So remember to do that if you're getting it. The other option is Uber and taxi. I find that Ubers and taxis here are so much more expensive than Toronto, and it's honestly a slower option than just taking the tube in London. So the black taxis that are kind of like the standard taxis in London, they're definitely the most expensive option. They're metered, you don't know what you're paying, and it's always going to be more expensive than the apps. And then the ride sharing apps, so there's So there's three main ones that I have on my phone. So there's Uber, Bolt, and FreeNow. Uber is definitely usually the most expensive when I try to take a taxi, but it is the most reliable, I find. Bolt and FreeNow typically are cheaper. FreeNow is definitely the cheapest. They give a lot of discounts because I think they're kind of a newer company, so there's always like 40% off. So I typically use FreeNow because it's cheaper, but I find Bolt and FreeNow less reliable because they have less drivers and it takes more time to get picked up. But that's just my tips there. All right, it just got a little too dark, so I need to sit facing the light. Minor camera adjustment here. But did I talk about cars yet? I don't think I did. I don't know much about cars. I don't have a car. I really don't think you need a car living in London, but I would imagine it is quite expensive. Most rental places don't have parking. If it do have parking, most of the time is street parking. Like for example, for mine, there is technically parking outside, but it's like first come, first serve type of parking. And also to drive into the city every day, there's a £12.50 charge, congestion charge, unless your car fits like a certain environmental standard. So it's very expensive to like drive it. Just for driving it into the city, you had to pay £12.50. And another fixed expense that I think you should consider if you're an expat is taxes. So depending on where you live, when you moved, whether your country has a tax agreement with the UK or not, you're gonna need to pay taxes in both countries, or at least file something in both countries the first time that you move. So this year is the year I experienced that. I filed in Canada and in the UK, and it was kind of a headache. So luckily there is a tax agreement. I got an accountant to do it for me because there's just so many like little nuances that I don't know about the rules of someone moving here. And then when you have like, I still have income in Canada, I have property in Canada, so it's quite a confusing experience. I would budget some money aside to pay taxes and to hire someone to do your taxes if you have any kind of like freelance or business income at all. Now let's go into kind of variable expenses, things that are kind of added on. So something like coffee. I feel like coffee here pretty evenly priced. If you're looking for something like a filtered coffee or an espresso from like Pret, it's like £1.60 for a filtered coffee. From my local coffee shop, an espresso is like £2. If you're looking for a latte, it's going to be a little bit more than that. So a latte at Pret is like £3.25, and a latte at my local coffee shop is actually the same price. But if you go to central London, or you go to like a super, you know, bougie coffee shop or snobby coffee shop, it might be a few pounds more than that. But on average, I think you can count on £3-ish being your average price for like a latte or like a flat white. Next is drinks. So the drinking culture here is huge. I feel like people go out for drinks more than they go out for dinners and things like that. So after work drinks, catching up with a friend drinks, definitely a lot of drinks. So at my local pub, a glass of wine can range from £4 to £7, which is not too bad. A beer, somewhere around £4 to £5 for like a pint, which is not too bad either. You can go to super like discount bars, kind of made for university student life. So one of the most popular ones I think is Simmons. They have wines for £3, they have beers for £2.50, cocktails for £10 or 2 for $10 during like certain times, I think, or it might be like that all the time actually, I'm not quite sure. So those are like super discount bars. If you're going to a nice bar, like a fancy bar, a beer could run you £7 to £10, and cocktails can be upwards to £21. I definitely have sat in like a hotel bar and ordered a £21 cocktail before. Or if you go to the Shard, or you know, one of the super like high-rise buildings and have a cocktail in a fancy bar like that, it's gonna be like £25. Not joking. So yeah, you can definitely find things within your budget, just depends on where you're hanging out. Next, eating. So fast food, or like a £1 like Google option would probably be like fast food or like kind of smaller local joints. So things like McDonald's, or like there's a lot of fast food chains like Leon's that are like British, or Itsu, pho places, things like that. Like, not that they're fast food, but those places tend to be like cheaper. So at McDonald's, for example, a meal deal is like £6. If you go to like Itsu or like Leon's, one of these like a little more substantial and healthier kind of fast food places, you probably spend £8 to £10. If you're going to like kind of like a small like pho restaurant or something, a banh mi could be like £6, a pho could be like £10, but this kind of also depends on like the kind of places you go. If you especially, you can definitely find cheap places like this in London. And then I think the next level up from this would be kind of like a budget restaurant. There's a lot of kind of like nice restaurants that are known to be budget friendly. So like a £2 sign on Google. An example I like to use is Bacone. So they're like a pasta restaurant right in central London near, it's either Oxford Circus or Piccadilly Circus. I honestly can't remember. But like a main there is like £10 to £15. A starter could be like £4 to £13, and drinks are between £5 to £10. So you could have a drink and a meal for like £16, £17 there, which is not too bad. And then the next level up for like a £3 star place, it's not that different, but I think you would order differently there. So at one of the really popular restaurants is Circolo. I can't pronounce their name, but I'll put it on screen. Very popular Italian restaurant in London. On Google, they have £3 stars, although the pricing is not that much more expensive. It's just a little bit more expensive than Bacone or Bancone. But their drinks, also between £5 to £10. They're not really like specializing in drinks, so I think that's why it's so affordable. Starters there are a lot more expensive. It's between £7 and £14, and a main is around £14 to £20. Although they have pizzas that are a little bit cheaper, but everyone goes for like the truffle pasta or like the one they put in like the cheese wheel and things like that. So a night there might run you like £30 to £40, and of course, above that, there's the nice restaurants in like Mayfair. And from that point on, £4 and up, the sky is the limit, okay? There's, you know, £300, £400, £500 a night restaurants. Next, if you're looking for a gym and fitness club membership, like anywhere, they can range. I feel like the cheapest you can get is probably £25 a month within like central London or like zone 1, zone 2. That's the cheapest I've seen so far. And it can go upwards to like £240 for like a place like Equinox. So it kind of depends. There's also Class Pass if you like that, but I think the plan on there for like a decent plan is like 50 something a month. So this kind of gives you an idea of how much it would cost to sign up for a membership if you want like a bougie membership, or do you want, you know, or if you want like a more discount gym. Next, entertainment. So I put a lot of things in these bucket of things that you might want to do for entertainment. So for example, movies here, lots of variation, lots of different levels that you could pay. So like a normal movie theater, like in Canada it'd be like Cineplex, but the Odeon movie theater, I think, is like the normal theater that you can find in a lot of places, is £14 for a ticket. They probably have discount tickets, but if you want like a really nice theater, so Odeon already I think is super nice. There's like reclining seats. It's like a sofa experience. It was really nice when I went. But me and Nate also go to Everyman a lot, which has like a more classic old England feel. They have like these sofas which are really comfortable. Actually, there's like sofa service or like waiters that come, and there's like an extensive menu of food and drinks that you can get while you watch the movie, and that ranges, like I seen low £14, but I think that's probably a normal theater room, to like £21. Next is like activities like galleries. So most of the museums in London are free. A lot of the galleries are free, and when it is paid, it's usually between £10 to £20. Like a really nice exhibit or like a famous artist that came and is like doing it with a small gallery, that there's usually a fee to that. Or it's like a immersive art experience. Sometimes that's paid, but I would say like 80% of the time it's free actually. But if you pay, it's never over £20, I feel like. Another thing is like other activities that you might do. So like mini golfing, like I went to Swingers, or like there's this like bingo on crack kind of experience in London that you can go to. There's like all these like kind of like adult games that you could pay for, and it's like a nice weekend activity. I think those usually range between £20, but obviously you're going to be there, you're going to be buying drinks, so it's going to be more than £20, but the ticket to do it itself is around £20. Another thing is like clubbing. I haven't gone that much. I only gone I think 2 or 3 times, and they were for specific events, and those events I think range between 20 to 45 pounds, and it kind of depends on the artist. I think a normal club night would be around 15 to 20 pounds to like enter some clubs. Next is groceries. So again, this is just based on where you shop. If you want discount, you can get discount, but if you want bougie, you can also get bougie. So the cheapest grocery stores that I find are like Aldi, Lidl, Iceland. They're the 3 cheapest grocery stores, but I find that they don't have everything. They have enough that you can put together a decent meal, but you're not gonna get kind of like the niche food items that you would get at bigger or more pricier grocery stores basically. The middle tier I think is like Morrison's, Tesco, and Sainsbury's. I have never been to a big Sainsbury's and Tesco. There are like so many little ones within the city, but Morrison's, there's many big ones in zone 2, which is normally where I went before, but now there's like a little near me, so I go there now. But Morrison's is actually pretty reasonably priced. I wouldn't say I spend much more now that I go to Lidl than when I went to Morrison's. I think it's actually still really affordable and similar pricing too. And they have more brands and usually a bigger store. And then the top tier, of course, is Whole Foods, Waitrose, Planet Organic. A very bougie experience. They have brands you never heard of. Everything is a few pounds more than at Morrison's, but it is a nice shopping experience. So I'm just gonna give you a few prices of things from Morrison's, and I find that groceries in London are cheaper than in Canada. Typically my 1 week shop right now is very little because I eat very little at home since my work provides lunch and breakfast, but when I used to cook every day and work at home, I would spend 25 pounds on groceries a week. Maybe I pick up a few things here and there for 5 pounds more, so let's just say 30 pounds, but it's still not a lot. I feel like I spent way more in Canada when I was buying groceries for myself. So a liter of like whole milk is 99p, a dozen eggs is 1.99. I find poultry here very, very cheap, or meat in general quite cheap. So you can get like 1 kilogram of chicken thighs for £2.20, 1 kilogram of drumsticks for £2.20, wine as low as £5, a pack of beer, like 4-pack of Heineken is like £4. So just to give you an idea of how much you could spend on groceries. I'm not sure if this would be considered cheap compared to wherever you're from, but compared to Canada, this is quite cheap, I find. Now, this is kind of niche to me, but Asian groceries here are on a different category on its own. It's not bougie, but it's expensive. Everything is way more than I'm used to paying in Canada. Yeah, it pains me every time I go in there. I go in there only when I need the essentials, when I need things that I cannot get anywhere else, and I need that, like the Asian sauces or, you know, Asian like fish cakes, things like that, but it's just more expensive overall. Next, toiletries. I haven't noticed anything about beauty products and like, you know, like toothpaste or like, I don't know, toilet paper. They all seem pretty standard pricing, so like I just get mine on Amazon. You can get like a pack of 45 rolls for £12.19. So I'm not gonna go into too much into toiletries because that's kind of boring and it's not that important. Like cleaning supplies, £1 you can get a bottle of like, I don't know, multi-purpose cleaner. So yeah, not bad. Lastly, travel. I think that is something I'm going to include in this list for comfortable living because it is so cheap to travel to European countries from England. You can get tickets as cheap as £8, although I would say I've never booked a trip based on that. I needed to plan around certain times, so I think the cheapest ticket I ever booked was £50, but there's definitely like £25 flights all the time. You just need to be a little bit more flexible about when you want to go. And overall, just compared to London, like unless you're going to Switzerland or something, most European cities are cheaper than London. I feel like I spend less money traveling in a European country than I do living in London. Like food is cheaper, wine is cheaper, accommodations, okay, like I'm still paying for my rent, so it's not like cheaper, but a night per night is cheaper than staying in London. So yeah, traveling is definitely very affordable, whereas compared to Canada, anywhere worth going to is at least, you know, unless, okay, you could go to the States for a few hours flight, but you know, everyone's been there, done that. So if you're trying to go Asia or Europe, it's gonna be like a good 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 16-hour flight to Asia, and you're gonna have to take, you know, a lot of time off, versus nowadays I can just take 2 days off, go for like 5 days, and it's worth it because the flight's only like 3 hours or 2 hours. So definitely very affordable travel. Alright, so I think I covered everything I could think of. Might have missed something, but let me know if you think I missed something that's essential in here. So based on all the things I just covered, I'm gonna calculate kind of like a comfortable life on a budget in London. So let's say your rent is £1,000. Let's just say you have kind of like a bachelor in zone 1 for £1,000, okay? Very possible to find. It might be really old, it might be really small, but you're in zone 1. Let's just say you're paying £1,000. Council tax, let's say 95, what I'm paying right now. Your utilities, let's just say they're 120, a bit high, but you're in an older building, right? So 120, let's just say that. Internet, £20. You can probably get a little bit cheaper than, but let's say £20. Your phone bill, you got like a plan from 3, or you got my plan that I have from EE, and it's £10 a month. Transportation, I'm gonna say you pay around £105. So this would include going to work 4 times a week and going out and taking to back and forth on the weekend. So that's like £105 for 4 weeks. Let's say you spent £50 on Uber that month, you went out late at night once, you needed to transport something, so let's just say £50. So for eating out drinks, I'm gonna say you're very budget conscious. You're gonna get only 1 coffee out per week, you're gonna get 2 drinks one time per week, you're gonna get dinner with a drink 2 times per week, and that's gonna equal around 180 to 200 pounds. You're gonna spend 50 pounds-ish on entertainment. Maybe you went to mini golf one night, maybe you went to see a gallery, maybe you went to watch a movie. Let's just say 50 pounds. And then let's say you spent 150 pounds on groceries. So I would probably spend around 100 pounds, but let's just say you cook at home a lot, so let's just say 150 pounds for groceries, and then another like 30 pounds for miscellaneous expenses. So in total, your monthly expense of all that would be around 1,810 pounds. Now, if you're spending 1,810 pounds a month, so I use the take-home calculator app, and at minimum, if you're spending 1,800 pounds a month, you would need to be making at least 27,000 pounds. But this is assuming that you're not saving any money and you're literally living paycheck to paycheck. So of course, I wouldn't recommend someone making 27,000 pounds to be probably spending 1,000 pounds of that on rent. That's 50% of your over 50% of your monthly income, of course. So you might, if you're making 27,000 pounds, you probably want to consider more so a flat share or something like that. So I think a healthier amount to consider would be that if you're spending 1,810 pounds, you probably want to be putting away at least 500 pounds to savings, or at least have a 500 pound buffer. So let's just say every month you kind of want your total income to be at least 2,300. So to have a take-home salary of 2,300, you would want to be making 37,000 pounds a year. Now, this is only if you want to be living by yourself in a bachelor. I think where people can really cut down is where they live. There's a lot of affordable house share options. You can definitely cut down on your rent expense, and that would free up 500, 300, 400 pounds right off the bat. But what I consider comfortable is to be able to live on my own, be able to go out a few times a week, get coffee sometimes, things like that. So at minimum, I would be comfortable paying 1,000 pounds for rent if I was making at least 38,000 pounds a year. Anyways, that's just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think this is a realistic budget? Do you think it's more or less expensive to live in London? And also, if you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. And as always, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!